Okay, I think we're on. It is Friday, January 8th, and we're here for Yoga Flow. So, grab what you need. Those of you at home, if you have more than 2 blocks and you know you like to use 3 blocks sometimes in a dolphin pose, you might have one handy. Grab your extra. If not, that's fine too. So, get what you need to sit comfortably. Maybe you prefer to sit up on blankets. Maybe it feels better to sit up even higher on a block and a blanket. So just ease your way into getting comfortable however you're sitting. Use blocks underneath your knees if you need to support and release your hips a little bit there. And then just close your eyes and start to enjoy now feeling your breath coming in and going out through your nose. Accepting your breaths, easily feeling your belly rise as you inhale. If you can comfortably come into those 3-part breaths, inhaling into your belly, into the ribs, and all the way up into your chest. And then let yourself release your head forward here now. Chin down towards your chest. Feel that release at the back of the neck, maybe even between the shoulder blades, maybe even lower down your back. And then just roll your right ear towards your right shoulder. Let yourself release that right side of the neck, left side of the neck. And then come on back down through center and go off to the other side. So actually just letting yourself do these little neck rolls, letting the head release forward and to one side at your own timing. Just rolling through very easily. And then when you're ready to come back at center and stay forward, let yourself stay there for a breath. And then we'll rise the head on back up, letting our arms come on out beside us here now, lightly touching the ground. Let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Reversing the arms, we'll inhale the hands up to the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And now think about making little circles with your shoulders. So not big, tense circles. Just easily letting the shoulders circle in one direction. And then when you're ready, stop and reverse and let those shoulders circle the other way. So you're focusing on just easing through your shoulders here. Again, try not to feel like it's a tensing in the shoulders. Good. And then release, shoulders on down, away from your ears. Bring your hands where it's comfortable, maybe right above your knees. And now think about circling your rib cage. So it's like you're inhaling as the ribs come forward, off to one side, back behind you. But try to feel like you're really moving through the rib cage area here. Circling, and of course you'll shift side to side a little bit, shift from one sit bone to the other. Now stop and reverse the directions that you're circling the ribs here. Just do the best you can. Just imagine you're waking up your ribs really. And then finish off and come on back up to center and bring your hands behind you. Come onto either fingertips or lean back onto your hands if you choose. And let your chest come forward, your shoulders come back. Let it feel really good now to open up through the front body. Look wherever is good for your neck. You can look forward or up as far as you want. And then we'll rise on back up. Now from here, let your left leg kind of stay forward and swing your right leg over kind of to your side. So it really depends on how your hips feel. Maybe this right knee is facing towards the corner of your mat a little bit. All we're going to do here is twist toward that left front leg. And then we're going to come forward over it. So you can kind of lay yourself out over the leg. You can have your hands support you. Maybe you want to lay all the way over your leg. Let your head hang. You can even use your hands as a pillow to support your head there if you want, or a block. So just easy. Just really thinking about allowing the hips to release a little bit here. Breathe into your low back. Good. One more breath. And now slide your left forearm onto the floor beside you. We're going to open up into a side stretch, opening that right arm here and letting yourself reach into the side stretch. So feel that in your right side waist. You might even feel a little more openness in the front of your right hip. One more breath. And then turn back to face your thigh and walk yourself back up. And as you do, swing your legs on around and go to the other side. So the right leg comes more forward and the left knee, again, kind of this placement of this left leg is kind of up to you, how far back your knee comes. But just turn yourself over towards your right thigh here and then come forward. Again, doesn't matter how far. You can hold yourself up with your hands. You can fold over the leg. You can put your hands under your head if you want for a pillow, or you can stretch your arms out long. Just breathe. Try to release your neck, your jaw, your face. Good. And then let the arms come back so you can shift over to your right forearm and then open your left arm up into that side stretch here. Breathing into that side you're stretching. Let yourself just enjoy space between the ribs there as you inhale. And then we'll turn back to the leg again. And again, we're going to walk ourselves up. Actually swing your legs on out again in front of you. Separate your feet a little bit here and circle through your feet and ankles. So let the feet circle. Feel your ankles there. Get a little bit going. Reverse directions when you want. And then let your feet go in and out and in and out. So you flip-flop them a little bit. Release a little bit there. Good. And then just to open a little more in the back of the legs, come on forward. And then your hands can just slide down your legs a little bit. You can reach your toes if you want. You can put your hands on the floor if you'd rather. Take your time. Feel your heels on the floor. Let yourself feel that sense of the inside of your legs getting a nice stretch. And, of course, your hamstrings as well. Good. One more breath. And then we'll slowly make our way on back up. Bring our legs on together. We're going to come around towards our hands and knees. So you know if you don't want to be on your knees, don't be. Grab a blanket. If your wrists bother you, come to fists. If you'd rather get your hands onto a blanket or blocks, that can help too. But look at your hands for a second. Spread your fingers wide if you can and get your pointer fingers about parallel to each other. And then really let yourself ease your way through your cat-cows here now. So let it feel like the most natural thing ever. As you exhale your way into your cat pose and you inhale your way back through to your cow. And that might be different for everybody. In other words, the speed at which you move, whether you stay in your cat or cow without moving for a couple of breaths, or you like to continuously flow through. Finish off the one you're on, whatever one you're moving into now, and then we'll come back to neutral spine. And from here, let's put our left forearm down on the mat, parallel to the front edge of our mat, and stretch our right arm long overhead. Lower our forehead down onto our left forearm. Now spread your fingers wide, press down into your right hand, and press down into your left forearm a little bit. And just enjoy engaging there into the shoulders. Good. Now bring the right hand back so you can press your way up to switch sides. So bring that right forearm parallel to the front edge. Stretch your left arm out overhead and then bring your head down. And again, press gently into that left hand. Hug your left elbow inward a little bit. Press down gently into that right forearm so you're engaged up into your shoulders. Good. And now bring your left hand back a little bit. Come up and see if you can bring your hands forward up here. So not right under your shoulders. And then shift your hips forward. So you're coming in towards a cobra pose. Let yourself release there a little bit. You don't have to go any deeper than you want. Feel your elbows hugging in towards your ribs. Let yourself bring your gaze forward a little bit. Now shift back, curl your toes under, and let yourself come on back into a down dog from here. So once you get into down dog, walk a little bit, move through whatever you need to move through, right? Through your feet. You can circle your ankles around, take your time. Feel your elbows hugging towards each other. Good. And now from here, however you need to, you can put both knees down if you want. We're going to bring our left foot forward and come into lunge. And you can grab your blocks if you'd like to get up a little higher if that helps. Find that alignment of that front knee. See if you can maybe raise your left forearm up onto the thigh, right above your knee. And you may even want to bring your right hand in to clasp your left one, or you might not. That's up to you. Keep one hand down or both down if you'd rather. And then let the hands come down if they were up. We're going to switch sides, bringing that right foot forward, left foot back. Remember, you want your feet apart like you're on pretty narrow railroad tracks. If the idea of bringing your forearm up sounds good, you can. Support yourself there. You can clasp your hands together if that feels good and let yourself come more deeply into your legs, or you can keep your left hand down and your right hand down if you need. Good. And then let's come on down with the hands and let's step forward and come into standing forward bend. So feet hips distance apart and parallel. Let your knees soften. And let your head move around a little bit, right? So here you are in your forward bend. Let your neck release by moving your head, nodding or shaking your head a little bit. And then feel the weight of the head as best you can. If it bothers your back, you know you use whatever you need for support. And then follow your breaths all the way in and all the way out. Let's let our hands come on up to our hips and bend our knees, press into our feet, and rise straight on up to standing. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And let your exhale bring your hands down together in front of your heart. Lift your elbows up, look down at your hands for a second, and then just for a brief time, turn your fingertips down towards the ground. So your hands are turned over, and you're looking at the back of your wrist, right, really, almost look right where the heels of your hands connect. You're rounding your back a little bit, but feel that pressure so your wrists really get into this. And now on your next inhale, bring your gaze forward, bring your hands back up, plug your thumbs back in, right where they want to go, in towards your breastbone, where you feel very comfortable in your shoulders. Feel your fingers now easily connected. Let your feet feel based into the ground. Might even get the idea of you're pushing the ground away from you with your feet equally. The eyes are engaging upward and tailbone drops down, coming into your mountain pose. And then we'll unfold our arms on down beside us and inhale both arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, bend our knees, come on forward into that standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find a long back. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into lunge. Take your time, press your feet away from each other, really coming into that lunge here. And we'll make our way into a downward facing dog pose from here. So, don't come out to plank yet, but just look at your hands, right? So you come a little bit out, right? And spread your fingers. Make sure your pointer fingers are parallel. Hug your elbows towards each other a little bit with your arms a little bent. And then reach back from there through your sit bones. You can bend your knees or you can keep your legs straighter, but really feel those elbows hugging inward. Let yourself find the length of your spine. And on your next inhale, come on out to the plank. Strong plank. See if you can bend your elbows just a little tiny bit. Stay there for a breath. And then come into a little bit straighter arms. And then we're going to do that again. Bend your elbows maybe a little more. Stay for a breath. And then if you need to lower your knees down first, we're going to come down to the mat. And we'll come onto our forearms. Elbows right underneath the shoulders. Spread your fingers nice and wide. Now, from here, from the Sphinx, come about halfway down with your body and slide your hands back by your upper chest. So for a cobra pose, elbows hug in. You can stay right here. This is a cobra. Or you can press into your hands and go up higher, letting yourself come into elbows. Again, hugging in. Try not to lock your elbows here. And then from here, we'll lower all the way back down to the floor. We're going to come back to down dog, whether you come through a half or a full push-up. Let yourself release back into your downward facing dog pose. Spread those fingers wide. Walk if you need to. You know, anytime, if it feels good to you, to bend a knee at a time. And then we're going to bring our right foot forward and come into lunge. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend. Feet just the distance apart that feels good. If you have the ability to take your hands to your toes, see if you can massage your toes a little bit. Like start with your big toe and give it a little squeeze from the root through the middle all the way to the tip a little bit, and then do the same thing to the second toe. Starting at the base and moving up through the toe all the way to the tip, give it a little squeeze, and then go to the next toe. It's like you're saying good morning to all your toes, and then go to the next toe. And lastly, we'll go to the pinky. Don't forget about him, her. And then we'll let those toes release. Now, if you want to slip your fingers, like put your hands on top of your feet and slip the tips of your fingers under your toes, you can. Just let yourself kind of cover your feet a little bit with your hands and enjoy full deep breaths. And then we'll let our hands come on back up to our hips, bend our knees. We're going to rise on up and inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And let our exhales bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. We're going to unfold our arms, clasp your hands back here, interlace your fingers. For a second, really squeeze your palms together too. And then separate the palms so that you're just interlaced at your fingers, and let yourself inhale your hands a little more away from you. And when you exhale, let them come back in towards your back there. So inhaling, arms come a little away. Exhaling, letting them release back. Inhaling, letting them come away, doesn't matter how far. Exhaling, leaving them back. Now leaving the hands here, take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, fold forward from your hips Once you get parallel, you can stay there, you know that, or you can fold all the way over your legs if that works for you. And then releasing your arms from here, if possible. If not, don't do it. If your shoulders don't let you, just keep the hands on your back. One more breath. And then we'll release our arms on down. Let your next inhale help you find a really flat, long back. And we're going to step our left foot back and come into lunge. And inhale. Exhale into our downward facing dog pose. Good. Let's come on out to plank. Find a nice strong plank here, and then just bend your left knee a little bit. Keep very strong in your pelvis there, and then straighten that left knee back and bend your right knee just a little bit. And then straighten that one back. Go to the left one again. And come back straight, and then the right one. Come back straight, bend your elbows a little bit and stay. And then we're going to lower down. Again, knees first if you choose, elbows right by the ribs. And we're going to come into cobra. Whether you stay in a low cobra here or press into your hands and rise up higher is up to you. Elbows hugging in towards the ribs. And then from here, we're going to shift back towards pose of a child. So let your hips lead you back. Keep your arms overhead if you can. Doesn't matter how far back your hips go. And then walk your hands over towards the right. Breathe into the left side here. Let yourself enjoy. And then we'll come back through center and walk our hands over to the left. Go as far as you want and then stay and breathe. Good, and then come on back into center. Arms overhead, elbows hugging softly towards each other. And on your next inhale, come on back up to all fours. Curl your toes under. We'll make our way back into down dog. And let's come out to plank. And let's move down all the way to the floor, however you want to get there. And from here, let's come up into an up dog. So you can curl your toes under, let yourself come up, lift the knees off the floor that way. Or you can keep your toes on the floor so that you come up with the knees with the tops of the feet on the floor. It depends on what feels best. And then we're going to come on back down. We're going to make our way back into down dog. And we'll bring our left foot forward to come into lunge from here. And then we'll come back into our standing forward bend. So good. Walk your standing forward bend a little bit. Bend one knee at a time. You may want blocks under your hands, that's fine. And then see if you can actually, when you're walking the Uttanasana, lift the heel up of the knee you're bending. So that you actually press into the ball of that foot. And maybe even really lift the heel up high when you're bending the knee. And letting yourself walk. Good. And then finish off. Go ahead and let yourself come back onto feet evenly. Let your knees soften as much as you need. You can hold your elbows if you like. You can hold on behind your legs or allow your hands to go wherever feels good into your breath. And then we'll bring our hands on up to our hips, bend our knees, and rise on up. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. Exhale, bringing our hands down, coming into mountain pose here for a couple of breaths. Before we move through our sun salutations with our breath, really get grounded. Feel that sense of balance in your mountain pose. And that sense of being very effortless. Mountain pose, the basis of all our other poses. Once you're aligned, it's like you could stand here all day long. And then as we unfold our arms, we'll inhale both arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, we're going to fold forward. Let your inhale lengthen out your spine. Exhale, right foot back to lunge. And inhale. Exhale into downward dog. Let your inhale carry you to your plank, and your exhale will lower you down. And inhale into your cobra of choice. Exhaling back to down dog. Inhale. Exhale, right foot forward to lunge. And inhale. Exhale, standing forward bend. Bend the knees, rising up, arms all the way to the top. And on the exhale, we're going to fold forward again. Let your inhale lengthen your spine. Exhale, left foot back to lunge. And inhale. Exhale, down dog. Let your inhale bring you to your plank. Exhale lowers you down. Inhaling into that cobra. And exhaling back to down dog. Inhale. Exhale, left foot forward to lunge. And inhale. Exhale into standing forward bend. Bend the knees, rising all the way back to the top. And on the exhale, we're going to fold forward again. And let your inhale lengthen your spine. We're going to come into down dog. Place your hands, jump or walk your way. Once you get into your dog, if you need to wiggle around a little bit more, do. Take your time. Elbows hug in, feel the hands on the floor. Make sure you can feel your thumbs, your pinkies, pointer fingers, middle fingers. It's okay to look at your hands if you have any doubt about whether you're equal there. Good. We're going to bring our left foot forward from here. Have your blocks handy. We're going to come up into warrior two. So we're going to line up our heels here. Bend into that front knee. Let your hands just stay down on your thighs for a second. And then slowly start to turn your head to look back behind yourself, back over your right shoulder, and rise your right arm on up and out, straight out from your shoulder. So you're looking right out over the top of the right hand. Now slowly start to turn your head back through center, over, all the way over your left shoulder, and then slowly float that hand on up. So you're right there now where it's really easy to look right out over the top of the left hand. You know the right hand is right back there in place. Feel the feet pressing gently away from each other. Let's lower our right arm. Now see if you can fold your right arm behind onto your low back. Turn your left palm up and inhale and reach up towards the sky. Full breath into those left ribs on your reverse warrior. And on your next exhale, come into your side angle. Now if you can, hand or forearm on your thigh. Keep your left hand behind you for a second. Let yourself face the palm out. You're about maybe at the middle, right at your tailbone there. Just enjoy now drawing your outer left hip back. And then take your right arm long and let it swing in front of your chest, in front of your face, and then come up into line, into the right side of the body line. Turn the right pinky down a little so your shoulder releases down away from your ear. Good. We're going to come on back into warrior two. Press those feet away from each other as we come. And now, straighten your left leg out. Both legs are straight. Thighs are lifting upward. Reach your left hand just a little forward, like you're elongating the underside of the body, and then bring your left hand down. Now for me, I like to use a block. Whether I use that block in front of or behind my left foot is up to me. And then extending the torso out over that leg. Whether you have your hand on your leg or a block, thighs are lifting upward. Feel that sense of length through the spine, all the way out through the top of your head. You can try turning to look up if you want. One more breath. And now let yourself turn to look down towards your left foot. Bend your left knee and rise on back into warrior two, pressing those feet away from each other. And now we're going to make our way into lunge. So bringing your hands down, maybe you want to use blocks, maybe you want to use the floor. Releasing that right heel now to go directly behind your foot. And then shifting so that you can bring your left hand to your left hip and draw that left shoulder up into twist. Hand can stay down or you can reach the arm up. Totally up to you. Be where you can. And then we'll come on back down into lunge. And let's straighten that front knee out. Let the right heel just descend directly behind your foot. So not pyramid. Don't hike the heel inward. Really let yourself just get into the release of the calf there. Good, and then we'll bend the front knee, find lunge, and we're going to come on back into downward facing dog pose from here. Once you're in dog, walk through to the tops of the feet a little bit. And then you decide if you want to come into some vinyasas or kriyas. You can come out for plank, move through for back bends. You can, if you'd like, put your knees down. You can rest in child's pose. You can stay in dog. You don't have to add back bends at all. Really pay attention to what feels good to you today and let yourself follow your body. And we'll finish off and meet back in down dog. And we will bring our right foot forward, and we're coming up for warrior two on the other side. So again, having the blocks handy so you know where we're headed, and take your time. Line up those heels. Get comfortable in the length of your stance and the alignment of that front knee. And then just start to turn your head to look behind you easily. And float that left arm up. And so you're looking right out over the top of the hand. You know you have that line up there of that back arm. And then start to turn slowly. Turning the head to look back around to the right. And then once you rise and float that right arm out, there it is. It's easy. You're right there in place. Feet are pressing gently away from each other. Feel that all the way up into the hips. And now lowering the left arm down to fold it onto your low back. Let's turn the right palm up and inhale, reach up. Full breath here. Inhaling into the right ribs. On your next exhale, come on into that side angle. So either your right hand or forearm down onto your thigh. Keep your left hand behind you for a second. Roll that left shoulder up. And then see if you can just straighten that left arm a little bit so it swings in front of you, and in front of your chest and your face, and then right there comes into line on the left side of the body. So press down into your forearm. Feel the right outer hip drawing back. Feel the connection of your left sit bone to your left heel. Beautiful. One more breath. We're going to come on back into warrior two, pressing the feet away from each other as we come. And now we're going to straighten both legs out. Feel your thighs lifting up towards your hips. Reach a little forward with your right hand, elongating the underside and bringing the right hand down for triangle. So again, whether you like to use a block or you like to use your leg or the floor, thighs engaging upward. You know, if that left shoulder bothers you, put your hand down. It doesn't have to be up. If you like to turn to look up towards the ceiling or up towards your left hand up there, you can. One more breath. And now turn to look at the floor before you rise up. Release your neck. Bend the right knee. Rise on back into warrior two. Pressing those feet away from each other. Good. And we're going to come back to lunge, remember. So as you bring your hands down, whatever surface you like to use, releasing that left heel directly behind you. Shift your weight to your left hand to the right hip or the low back, rolling that shoulder up. Remember, the hand can stay right there. Once you've checked and see you're pretty level, you may feel like you'd rather rise the arm up, or you may want to keep it there. Good, one more breath. And then let your hand come on down. Now you can straighten that front knee out and let that back heel just descend directly backwards. You might want to take a peek at your right foot. I'm finding myself rolling a little to the outside of my foot, so try to really ground the four corners of the feet. You might even spread your toes out a little more on that foot too, or lift the toes up if it feels good. And then we're going to bend that front knee, find our lunge, and we're going to make our way back into downward facing dog pose. Good for the dog here. All right, let's play a little bit. Let's come out to plank, and let's do just a little side plank. Now, you can put your right knee down to use it for a little support. Use it like a kickstand. lift your left hand up, or you can do a full side plank if you'd rather. So if you'd rather both legs be long, you can put your hand back down and reach into a full side plank with both legs long if you prefer, right? And then we'll come on back down. We're going to go to the other side. So the left knee can go down. You can use the foot like a kickstand. You can rise your right arm up. And if you're like, oh, well, that feels good, but I think I can do a full one, then you can go ahead and bring both feet back. And then we'll come on back. And from here, find your plank. And then let yourself just come on down and through for an up dog if you can. Whether your toes stay curled under or you go to the top of your feet. And then we'll make our way back into down dog. So again, you're on your own. If you'd like to do a couple more of those, vinyasas or kriyas. So vinyasas are when you bend your elbows and you come down through a push-up, right? Kriyas are where you just come to your plank and then just move through to the up dog. So finish off whatever ones you're doing. And from here, let's walk our feet in our dog out to the outer edges of our mat. And then start to walk our hands back. So as you do, you can release your elbows above your knees if you'd like. Or you can send your hands through between your feet, wrap them around the back of your ankles to the outside of your ankles or your feet. So your knees are really bent, right? Now some of you might even want to squat down with your hands kind of behind your feet. If you like that idea of coming down and supporting yourself a little bit. But don't do it if it hurts your knees or your hips. All right, so just be mindful. I mean, you're right here. Any of you who are like, I want to put my hands forward and I want to set up for a little crow pose if you feel like you want to. You don't have to do a whole balance here, arm balance. You can just pretend that you're going to lift yourself up onto your hands. Just play a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to do it. You just imagine as you look down at the floor, floating your feet up a little bit. Or just stay in your squat. If you're comfortable there, let your hips release. And then we'll finish off. Now, we're going to bring our hips back up in the air and get our feet right underneath us. Let yourself get squared off there, feet hips distance apart and parallel. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips. We're going to rise on up and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Take a breath here. And then bring your left arm over your right. Give yourself a little bit of a hug. Release here between the shoulder blades. If it feels even better to come into a full eagle or half eagle wrap, do it. If you feel better off hugging to find release, do that. And then we'll unwind our arms. Let them hang for a second, straight down from your shoulders. Just however is natural. Everybody's arms hang differently, palms face different directions. And then float your arms up and bring your right arm over your left and give yourself a hug. So for a second, stay there. Wherever's comfortable, just open up there between the shoulder blades on your back. And again, it's optional whether it feels better to head in towards a wrap or a half eagle wrap or not. So staying hugging is great. If that feels more releasing, do that. Try to find a sense of release in the back of your neck and your throat. Breathe into between the shoulder blades on your back. And then we'll release and unwind those arms. Shake your hands out a little bit. Circle through your hands, your wrists, your feet. We're going to bring our mats all the way into a wall. So we'll bring the short edge into a wall, and take your time. Get yourself set up there. And get your two blocks. So before we go any further, we're going to walk our feet. We're going to get really close, pretty close to the wall with our butts, right? And walk our feet to outside the mat on each side, right? Now, you might have to even be farther, because as you put your blocks down and you start to come into a wide-legged forward bend here, you've got to maybe get farther so you can actually come forward. Then maybe you can shift your heels all the way into the wall. And your bottom can go all the way into the wall. Now, mind you, this wide-legged forward bend feels really different than when you're doing it freestanding in the middle of the room. So be careful you do not want to fall on your face forward or forward roll out of this, right? So if you think about going lower on your blocks, whether you lower the blocks, put your forearms down, or just keep your hands on them and go lower, you can start to really get yourself here into the feeling of feet gently pressing away from each other, inner thighs melting towards the wall. And just release here for a couple of breaths. It's actually much more intense. If you even think about putting your hands closer to between your feet, just be really careful, because you more than you realize when you're in the center of the room, your hips shift back behind your heels more than you know. So now let's try coming up enough to walk over to the right. So you can walk your blocks just a little to the right, or you can have your hands on the floor. You might be able to reach all the way over towards that foot. But see if you can really think about keeping the left hip towards the wall. And then come on back to the center and go over to the left. And now you're trying to keep that right hip into the wall, drawing yourself over towards the leg. So see what I mean? A very different feeling. And then come on back into center. Again, if you feel like you want to walk your hands back a little more, you can try it. Just be mindful. Knees can be bent, just like when we're standing at center. Knees can be straighter. And then walk your hands on back forward if you were in. And we're going to bring our feet closer together. So just walk your feet on in towards the mat, in underneath you. Step away from the wall a little bit. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips. We're going to rise on up. And we're going to sit right back at the wall. And bend your knees a little bit. Let yourself release there. Turn your palms forward. Let yourself release. See if you can lift your heels up a little bit. Feel your quads. And then bring the heels on back down. And we're going to come on up. And we're going to turn with let's turn our right hand towards the wall. And grab a block, in case you want it, to put on the floor between your right foot and the wall. Any height, of course, because we're going to do a little eagle work. So you might want it low, you might want it middle. Because as you shift your weight onto your right foot and that outer left foot comes across to the block, right, thigh over thigh, you can squeeze as you sit back and sit down a little bit, depending on your knees. Squeeze your thighs towards each other. You may want to go lower. You may want to bring your torso more forward. If you do have the toes on the blocks, you may decide bringing your right arm on top of your left sounds like a great idea, because then you can engage shoulders and hips without struggling with balance so much. Although you still really have to squeeze the thighs, engage the belly. If you feel like lifting the toes off the block, you can. So if you feel like a little bit of balance, or maybe you're like, okay, well, I don't want to do the arms. I want to focus a little bit on lifting my toes up and finding that work in the core and in the hips. And then we'll come on up out of that, and we're going to turn around. So shake out a little bit if you need to. Bringing the right leg over. Right toes can touch the block. That's up to you. You can bend the left knee. You can put the toes on the block and really feel like you're safely aligned with that supporting knee. And again, if you feel like bringing your your left arm on top of your right, you can, or not. Maybe it feels better to you to keep your hands at your heart. Maybe you want to lift your toes up. let yourself release on up out of that. Good. You might want to move your block out of the way because we're going to turn and face the wall. Bring your right hand straight out from your shoulder on the wall. Your belly's to the wall. Right hand comes out. Only the tips of your fingers and the tips of your thumb are touching the wall. And put your left hand on your left hip here. And now push into the wall with the right fingertips and start to turn to your left with your hips, your whole body really. And it may not be far. Okay, this is a deep stretch across the pecs. The top, the right side of the chest there. So if you press in and imagine you're dragging downward a little bit. And sometimes this can really set off kind of feelings of little tingly and numbness. Don't overdo. If you can rise that hand up just a little bit higher, do, and then press in again and drag down a little bit. And maybe you can go up even a little bit higher. And then if you can go all the way turning your right side of the body to the wall and bring that arm directly overhead with the fingertips on the wall, like you're hanging from a pole with that right hand kind of. Just do that for a second. Good. And then turn back to the wall. Let that right arm just come on down beside you. And then bring your left hand out. So left fingertips, tips of the thumb, no palm on the wall. Right hand at your hip. Press in to your fingertips and start to turn to your right away from that arm. Again, it is up to you. You know, this is pretty intense. If you press in and drag down a little bit, you just stop. If you come back out of it if you need to, right? So that it's not pain. It's just a really deep stretch. The arm and across the chest. Come up a little higher with your hand, and again, try to drag down a little bit. And then see if you can come up a little bit more, pressing into the wall. And then again, if you can turn all the way sideways and have that left hand directly over your shoulder, still just fingertips on the wall. Let yourself release there for a breath. And then lower that arm on down. Let your arm swing back and forth. Come away from the wall so you don't bang the wall. But let your arm swing back and forth a little bit. Almost like if you were skiing, right? You go straight back and then bend your elbows. And let yourself just really release here. And you can let your arms even hang in front of you. Shake it out. We're going to practice a little camel today. Not one of my favorite poses, but I have been very much neglecting it, so I'm not going to today. Well, you can, if you know being on your knees. So camel is traditionally done on your knees. If you don't want to be on your knees, you can do the same thing we're doing like this, standing at the wall, and come into your back bend here with your hands either on your back or clasped. If you're going to go down to your knees and the idea of being on your knees on the ground doesn't sound so good, try a blanket. And at first, try where you're facing the wall for your camel, right? So for me, I like to have blocks back here by my feet. And I like to be on the blanket because my knees digging into the floor is not so good. Now you don't even have to go back to the blocks, right? You can just let your belly stay in the wall and let yourself release your head away from the wall. Put your hands on your low back, clasp them if you'd rather. You can also, if you choose, reach back for those blocks. And then remember you're trying to get your hips to stay over your knees instead of shifting your weight back. For camel pose, for a lot of us, it's the neck that really is troublesome. So you don't have to look up at all. You can keep looking at the wall and still get a nice back bend going here. Don't do too much where it bothers your back at all. Good. And then finish off. Come back to the wall and kind of crawl your way backwards and let yourself come on into child's pose here. So ease your way into pose of a child. Doesn't matter whether you use your arms for support and be somewhat forward, or maybe you like to release soft arms overhead, or bring your arms back alongside your legs. Just let the back release and breathe. Good. One more breath. Good, and then we're going to come on up, and you might want to move your blanket if you had it over by the wall. And if you like 3-block dolphin, you might want to grab the 3 blocks. So if you're using 3 blocks at the wall, the bottom block faces the highest height, and then the top 2 blocks go to the lowest height, and they're stacked up on top. So that when you wrap your fingers around this bottom block, you're able to, so that block goes the other way, Sandy, the bottom block, and the top 2. The bottom one goes, yes, yes. That's it. So when you do get this to where you're able to wrap your fingertips around that back edge of that bottom block, your head fits nicely into that space. The back of the head releases right onto that bottom block when you lift up into your dolphin pose. And you can bend both your knees and just press into the blocks, and just really let those blocks be a reminder to release between the shoulder blades on your back. You're still pressing down into your forearms, hugging your elbows towards each other. You don't have to use the blocks to do a dolphin pose. You may decide it feels good to lift the leg up when you have the blocks back there. I know a lot of you in here like to do both legs up, so if you like that, go for it. And if you're like, no, I don't think so, then come down, rest when you need to. You can always come into pose of a child and let yourself just feel that energy of pressing down into your forearms. No, you don't have to wait for me. You come down whenever you're ready. Take your time, stay up if you need to. If you'd like to go up again, sometimes it feels really good to rest for a little bit and then go back up. And sometimes it's just time to quit and you need to stay and rest however you need. So don't force it. Remember, this is finding those muscles that come wrapping around underneath your arms so that you're not tensing up into the upper shoulders. Come down when you're ready. Rest how you need. If you want to do a little child's pose for a breath or two, or maybe you feel better to sit up with your head above your heart. And once you've done an inversion, sometimes it feels better to get the head back up again. It's up to you. And then we're all going to make our way on around to sitting. And grab one of those blocks you had. And let yourself take the block between your legs, like right above your knees, right? So I've got mine the narrowest height because that feels better to me. And then I'm going to just lean back a little bit into my hands, and I'm going to squeeze into this block. And imagine I'm feeding it kind of downward. So it's like my inner thighs are feeding downward. So I'm pressing in, which really engages you there. You can see from here about whether you'd want to lift your feet up off the floor and do both, squeezing in. Now, you can use your hands kind of like this on the outside of your legs, and this is really interesting. Squeeze into the block at the same time as you're kind of pressing a little bit into your hands on the outside of your legs. Pretty engaging. One more breath. And then bring the feet down. Take your block out. let's try to do a little boat pose without, which hopefully will make it feel easier. Bringing the feet on up, flexing the feet. Now, you can hold separately, you can hold and clasp your hands if you want. And of course, you can decide, well, do I want my feet to go up higher? Do I want to straighten my legs up a little bit? Just keeping that gaze up if you're going to do that. I mean, you may even want to reach up and get your feet. Right? So if you feel like you want to come, actually it makes the pose easier. I have to be honest with you. If you can get your feet, it makes the pose easier because that gives you some support, right? Oh, one more breath. Enjoy the boat. And then as we come down, bring the soles of the feet together and make your way into your Baddha Konasana, which should feel like a huge relief. Remember, in this pose, you can sit on a blanket if it's better. You can also bring your feet out further so you have more of a diamond shape in here. If your build is such that your knees are way up high, if it feels better, put blocks under them so that you don't feel like you're tensing here in your hips, right? You want to get this idea of being able to just release, like the knees are gently reaching away from each other. And you know how you're built, I realize, it makes a huge difference in how the pose feels. So sometimes that support is very helpful. See if you can sit up nice and tall. Feel your sitting bones in the floor and feel that reach up through the crown of your head. And now again, try to think of relaxing in your hips. And some of you coming forward feels like a relief. So if it feels like, oh, that just makes it feel so much better to come forward, then do it. And if instead you're like, oh my gosh, that's worse, then maybe you want to stay sitting up tall. So take your time. Let yourself just release to where you can be. Try to let go of any tension you're feeling in your neck or your throat, your jaw. Imagine your face just softening every time you exhale, like you just let go of more and more tension in your face. Good. One more breath. Now slowly we're going to come up. And now we're going to do something similar to what we did at the beginning. You know how in the beginning we slid our legs over to the right? Do that, but this time, as your legs come over, think about your top right leg or ankle being on the instep of your bottom foot. Now you're going to be really lopsided. You're not, this right hip is up. Right? You're not trying to push it down to the floor. You're really kind of up on this side and you've got to kind of lengthen up. So put your spine in a very different place. And we're just going to twist from here because it feels really neat and twist to do a twist from here. So bring your right hand to your left knee and bring your left hand a little more behind you. Let yourself either look to the wall, beside you guys, or you can start to look behind yourself if you want. You know, it comes into the side waist. It's a very different feeling in the spine. Good. So just enjoy. Let yourself find that ease of that movement through the spine in your twist. One more breath. And now as you come back to center, we're just going to switch our legs around. So you can just swing them on around. And again, that left leg is on top, so either the leg or the ankle comes into the instep of the bottom foot. And it's almost natural to want to twist from here, right? It's pretty hard to sit center and sit up tall, but once you bring your left hand to that right knee and you bring your right hand around, it almost feels like, oh, this is the way it should be. So you can Let yourself enjoy that twist. You still have a lot of space in your spine. You're still, from that right hip grounded down there, you're still lengthening your spine upward. Feeling the lift in the side waist, both of them really, both sides. One more breath. And then again, use your belly to come on back around. We're going to swing our legs on front of us now. Shake them out a little bit, your feet, do little windshield wiper blades, let your legs, you can even do little leg bounces if that feels good. And we're going to come down onto our backs on the floor. So take your time, let yourself lie on down on your back, and once you get there, bring your knees on into your chest. And then, see if you can cross your left ankle over your right, all right? And you can decide here if you want to reach around the outside of your legs and get hold of your feet or not. And just hug the thighs in towards your outer chest, right? If you can't get the feet, it doesn't matter. You can just kind of hold on to the legs and hug them in. Just let it release your back, your hips. And then just switch. Let the other ankle, right ankle, come on top. And again, whether you hold the legs or the feet, just let the legs be hugged in. Let your back release down to the floor. Good. And then bring your knees on back in towards the chest, uncross. Stretch your legs up in the air and then open into a bit of a wide angle just to open up and release those inner thighs. Whether you use your hands to support the outside of your legs or just let the weight of your legs, find a little bit more for the inner thighs. If you like to hold your feet, you can reach your hands down. You can do the big toe hold. Hold your big toe there with your pointer finger and middle finger coming between your big toe and your second toe. Send your tailbone down more so that you get a little added extra. And then we'll bring the legs on back up in the air. Do a little bit of back and forth cross-country ski motion there. And pay attention to what your body really wants you to do right now. And it could be anything. And you may feel like doing another pose, another twist. If you want to do a plow pose, if you feel good to let yourself come into an easy twist here on your back, or you can always do the crossed thigh twists since we did those eagle poses. That might feel really good. In other words, just paying attention to your own body instead of you trying to tell it what to do. It is going to let you know what it needs to do. And I'll start to get lights in here, and then I'll also start to walk around to get stuff for people. So those of you at home, don't let yourself be uncomfortable. Bring whatever you need to help you be able to relax. And the same thing here at the studio. I have bolsters, I have blankets. I'd be happy to bring you. Remember, I wash and sterilize everything here between uses. So let me know if a little blanket underneath your head maybe to release your neck would help, or a bolster for underneath your knees. And just let yourself now feel the ground supporting you, like you're being cradled by the floor. So being aware that not every part of your body is touching the ground. yourself feel the weight of your arms and your legs. Help you find a deeper release up into your shoulders and your hips. And there is no right or wrong place to have your arms positioned or your legs. Just ease your way into finding the best place for you. And then just follow your breath in and out. Perhaps finding those little spaces between your breaths where you can release. As the breath naturally quiets, just let that quietness that comes in help your mind and body to benefit in whatever way you need. And allow yourself to completely and fully relax. Imagine sending the breath all the way out through your body, out through your arms and legs to the tips of your fingers and your toes, and starting to move your extremities whenever you're ready. It might feel even good to let your head roll side to side. Come into arms and legs doing what you need, stretching or bending. Take your time. You're welcome to roll to either your right or your left side if you're comfortable to do that. You can let your knees be soft. If you don't have a blanket there, you can use your arm as a pillow to rest a little more comfortably for your neck. Just enjoy the ground supporting you just a little bit longer. Appreciating gravity holding you there. You do feel okay to rise up. See if you can feel very light as you come up. Even your head feeling very light as it comes to be back up there on top, so that you feel like you can feel the top of the head just reaching upward and your head is just floating up there on top of your spine. Supported by the spine, lots of space as you sit up nice and tall. Come back to your breath. And let your next exhale bring your hands gently to meet there in front of your chest, in front of your own heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.